we talked in our little meeting outside was what the officer who adjudicates a case. And please remember that when we use the phrase visa stamping, it's a phrase that I really have only heard here in India, but it's to describe the process. When we are dealing with a case as an adjudicating officer, we're not just stamping, we're actually adjudicating. We are looking to make sure that the applicant in front of us meets every qualification under U.S. law. These aren't arbitrary decisions or arbitrary qualifications that the officers come up with. These are spelled out by Congress. And we're sent out years at a time to serve at one place at a time to develop localized expertise on visa applications in a country with laws that apply to every applicant worldwide. It's true that the question of specialized knowledge probably is what is practically the issue that comes up the most in a case of a denial for an L1B. And these topics will be brought up with NASCOM, with Jim Herman in Delhi. But if I could just talk a little bit about what an officer is looking at. He or she has the context of the petition, and this is very important, the applicant who is standing in front of him or her. To qualify for an L1B, you all know you have to otherwise qualify for an L1A. If that applicant had his or her own petition going through one of the service centers, it has to, he or she should be qualified in that process as well. What I think probably is one of the bigger disconnects is that the applicant in front of an officer is not always able to articulate his specialized knowledge. And if that doesn't come across in the interview, the officer really has no choice but to deny it, because that person hasn't demonstrated that he or she meets all of the qualifications of an L1B. So the advice I would give, not to say, to tell your, please don't take this away, that we have to tell our applicants what the consulate wants to hear. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is the applicant should be able to articulate why he qualifies, what he does, what he knows, what his day-to-day is, makes him different from somebody else, makes him specialized enough to qualify for this intra-company transfer visa. So that, my understanding, that was the biggest question everybody had. If I could also just for a moment talk about the issue of the B in lieu of H, because it has come up. We have seen a lot of turnarounds as well. We get the paperwork usually weeks after Fragomen or the home company gets notice of a turnaround. But we look at what the DHS and Customs and Border Protection officers are looking at the port of entry. I'm going to deviate for one moment. This room, when I speak to groups, I sometimes ask the question, who could tell me what a visa is? And in this room, I think I would get a right answer more than I in most places. But let me just put it out there for anyone who doesn't know. In U.S. law, a visa is permission to knock on the door for entry to the United States. It's not permission to enter. A visa is also not permission to remain in the United States. Again, it's to knock on the door. Permission to enter, how long you can remain, and what you're allowed to do is all determined by the officer at the port of entry, be it an airport or land border or sea border. So we are adjudicating visas, but then the decision of qualification can be found different from a border guard or a border officer. A visa is just permission to say, here I am for entry, please let me in. So we would like to see what it is that the DHS officers are using in their determinations for turnarounds. And in the question of the B, where somebody is going for B in lieu of H, it usually is he or she, it's usually, I would say, vast majority are he's, so I don't mean to disparage the ladies in the room, I'm just saying what I see coming Usually he has represented he's going to do work that is very, that is non-productive in nature, and the credibility is not established that that is what he's going to do. So I would just caution, when you are choosing folks to go to the United States, look very closely at the type of work, type of activities that your staff is going to be doing, and do make sure you get the appropriate category visa. A lot of turnarounds we also see are with B visa holders who have had visas in the past. So don't just, so they have the visa, they don't have to go apply for a visa. You've got the quick turnaround. Don't just say, that person has a B visa, so we're going to throw them at that project, because we don't have to go to the consulate and explain what the work is, because you're going to have to explain it at the port of entry, and it's a lot more expensive to turn around from port of entry as well than to do a visa application. I'm going to pass this along, and if there are more questions more specifically, we can get to them as we go.
Thanks a lot for giving us that perspective from the consulate side. Pass the baton to Brian, trying to find out from him, what role could an evaluation organization such as the one he represents help you guys in making an assessment whether the position and that individual would qualify for an L1, or would be, possess a specialized knowledge, and that the position that he's going for does require him or her to have specialized knowledge.
Thank you, Anuj. Essentially, our history is 32 years of providing foreign credential evaluations. Initially from students, foreign educated, who came over to go to school. In the 90s, it evolved into more immigration work, which obviously as immigration increased, H's and things like that, we adapted to that, and so a lot of our evaluations were used for that. Problems that developed out of that too stemmed from like specialty occupation issues and things like that. So, but essentially it's been an evolution to where, like say, when H's started to be gone for the year, and then the first day, what's a company to do? So L's became kind of a standard, but specialized knowledge, questions of functional managers, and things like that. So many of our same clients who we would work with on an H were now coming to us about L's. Can you help us on, qualifying for the blankets and things like that? And obviously the number one thing that we do to help many of our clients who are seeking or who have L1 blankets is provide a credential evaluation to clearly demonstrate that the foreign education is equivalent to a U.S. degree. That's a basic requirement of the L1B blanket. We've had requests come to us because of the struggles internally in the U.S. about functional managers and things like that. It does seem that the question about maybe you don't supervise employees, but they do, according to the regulations, supervise or do manage a function to service a department, regardless of whether it has employees. So we have had those types of requests. We can get into it more. Come visit us over at our exhibit. We've got some material there, and I'd like to talk to you one-on-one. But essentially, it's providing a consistent, in the regulations it says,